Thank you for tuning in to the Toledo Track and Trail Podcast, where co-hosts Matt Bucher and Marty Wheeler interview motocross and off-road racing and riding icons to capture their stories and experiences for you. So buckle up those helmets, grab a handful of throttle, and get ready to listen to the Toledo Track and Trail Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Ryder Powersports, located in Waterville, Ohio.
Ryder Powersports provides a host of services for your motocross and off-road machine. Ryder Powersports is the home to the ever-famous turbo speed tuning, and now Fathom Ride Company.
Give Ryder Powersports a call at 419-601-0421 and keep an eye out for their spring grand opening. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us. This is Season 2, Episode 9 of the Toledo Track and Trail Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Bucher, joined by my co-host Marty Wheeler and our favorite audio-visual man, Mr. AJ Underwood. If you're watching us on YouTube, please do not forget to hit the subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. We want to thank you all you listeners who have stuck with us over the last year. We just celebrated a year anniversary. I didn't know if you knew that, Marty.
No.
I've been waiting for my card and my my gift card to Bass Pro Shops or something.
It's in the mail.
Okay, all right. So we want to thank you, the listening audience, for sticking with us. But today we want to welcome a locally born and raised legendary off-road racer, multi-time AMA District 14 Enduro champion, ISDE Junior Trophy Team and club member, former AMA National Enduro Pro racer, a man who went from tragedy to triumph at a race that could make a Hallmark movie look weak. Most importantly to me, one of my longtime best buddies who have had the privilege to travel our great country and the world with, Mr. Cody Mastin. Welcome, Cody, to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks.
Wow.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
What an intro.
That was an intro.
That was an intro.
Pretty much done from here on out.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you coming on. This is your first podcast, I assume.
Yeah, this is.
Yeah, this is our 15th, I think.
Still haven't got any better.
No, improvements, not so much.
Right.
Haven't looked any better.
No.
Well, you have, Marty. You
I
trimmed the
shaved.
beard. You'd shaved.
I shaved.
Yes.
Well, you guys do now that I'm here.
And I got a little different hat today. It'd be nice to have a Mastin hat or T-shirt.
Yeah, little.
I don't have one of those either. But
Supply that.
So we typically start these podcasts with kind of going back through your history, but I kind of want to change it a little bit. So what are you doing? We're going to go in reverse order a little bit. What are you doing now as far as riding goes?
So just recently, I got a new bike. Probably 6 months ago now, I got a Sherco 450, and that came about because Alan Rant. I've kind of become really good friends with him, and he's been riding some Shercos. So I bought the bike, got it, and started riding. And we've been doing lately every weekend. Been going up mainly north. We went to South Carolina, did a big 2-day dual sport. That was a good time. And then hit some trails down in Tennessee, and went for 2 days there. And so trying to get back into it. I've taken a little break, so trying to get back into riding a little bit.
Well, you've so you're just trail riding basically.
Yeah, just trail riding. It's probably the most fun I've had. I'd probably say the most fun I've had on a bike.
Okay.
Just trail riding.
Well, and I would imagine, just knowing who you are, that you're just not going to go leisurely ride. You kind of probably haul the mail a little bit.
Yeah, my conditioning's not quite where it was, but it's you got those
club.
You got those moments.
Well, so how do you do a dual sport then if you're not? Because most dual sports are not really fast. So how do you stand doing a dual sport then?
It's you kind of got to tame it down a little bit. You got to just kind of ride and you start kind of mid pack, because it's kind of, you can start when you really want, and by the end of the day you're out leading the dual sport and having it's all fun. It's all,
I think all dual sports, so they start like, this is not a race.
Yeah.
This is not a race.
Yep.
Which is actually quite opposite, right? I mean, anytime there's a disclaimer, that means you really, especially racers, like, okay, several years ago at the Hare Scramble, I said in the riders meeting, don't jump the road. Don't jump the road. I see pictures on Facebook of guys jumping roads, doing points and all kinds. I'm like, what? maybe I should just not even said it.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
it's like,
right.
They probably would have never thought about it.
Yo, no, never, never. So you're doing dual sports and you got a Sherco. How do you like the Sherco?
I like it a lot. It's good. The fit and finish on it is great, and they're very good handling. I'm very happy with it. I couldn't ask for anything different. I mean, it's cool, and I got
those are made in France, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And I went with a 450. I've been always pretty much a two-stroke guy, but the 450 I had one years ago, and it was more fun to ride. So I went with that, and I don't know if that's because I've always been on a two-stroke, but yeah, it's I'm having a blast. It's good.
Well, it makes it easier to do some dual sport riding too.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
a little harder to dual sport on
Yep,
300. You can, but it's just a little harder.
Yep.
Well,
yep.
once you're heading down the road, the roadway is the nemesis to the two-stroke for sure.
Yeah. Right.
So what are you planning on doing? Are you still going to do some trail riding this year, or are you going to do some
Yeah.
sport?
We have a trip planned to Idaho, so we're gonna go
Nice.
to Idaho, check out. I think we're going probably 3 or 4 days out there. So, but pretty much just trail riding. There's I don't see like wanting to race or anything like that.
Well, you don't have,
As
quite frankly, you don't have time. I'm assuming you don't have time. Every time I've seen you, you're always working.
Yeah.
And, before we forget, why don't you tell the audience kind of where you're working now? Because you left the family business.
Yep.
And you went out and started your own business, which we're all real proud of you for that. And so what's the name of the business? Where can what do you do?
Yeah. So my wife and I started MSS Mastin Site Services. It started as doing some dump truck work, brokering with some dump truck guys, and then it turned into after I left the family business, I started doing excavating and some septic work, and then that just kind of trickled into just going to what I know. Now it's pretty much all septic related work. We pump septic tanks and do installs, repairs, and stuff. So it's but yeah, it's been keeping me way busier than I thought it was gonna, and especially so I mean, it's only been I think 2 years now that we've been on our own. So but yeah, it's been super busy.
People still have to go to the bathroom during a pandemic.
They do. Yes, they do.
With all that toilet paper they use.
Yes, they do.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you get excited when you see the toilet paper fly off the shelf?
Yeah, that always means business is going to be good.
Yeah.
Business is up when
Yes.
toilet paper sales are up.
Yep.
So you're doing that, here in White House, Ohio, or is that's considered Waterville?
Yeah, Waterville.
Right?
Yep.
Next to the Slaughters there.
Yep.
So you got your own shop, and then what do you have something going? Is it your wife, Erin?
Yep.
Who actually I went to school with. Is it her and her sister have the I forget the name of
The boutique. It's Timber and Blooms.
Timber and Bloom.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Once a month they have on a 2-day sale, and they sell artsy, crafty stuff, and that's just a little side gig for her sister's Sarah. She's very into that stuff. She really likes doing that stuff. So she's been doing that, and my Erin has been helping with that. And
Okay.
so yeah, but it's kind of do that in the front part of the business next to solder. So on the weekends they get that all
Get it going.
get that with all what they do with that. But,
Well, I do know there's 2 items missing from the store because they're in my house.
oh, good.
That my
I've
wife.
kept Lori away so far.
Have
I'm
you?
glad Jeannie could stop
Yeah,
by.
she did. Yeah, 'cause I'm like, like I'm sure you guys, you see a decoration on the wall, a new knickknack somewhere, and I don't know why. I just happen to notice it, and I don't notice anything like that because I don't really care. Decorate it how you want.
Right.
No, don't touch the barn. The house, you can do whatever you want. And I said, where did you get that? Oh, Timber and Blues. Oh, okay. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I probably will not shop there.
No.
It's not really into my niche, but I'll probably come around back and see you.
Yeah,
but,
right.
But no, that's cool. I mean, you're utilizing the space that you have there, which is a good thing. And,
Yep.
How many years have you been doing this? Since you're about 10?
Yeah, I mean, I started going around with my dad, as soon as I could work, and then kind of helping him out. as a kid, he precasted septic tanks there at his shop. So as a kid, I was always running around out back, thinking I was working, probably making more of a mess. But it's I've done it my whole life. So that's all I've done, and so it's been and he installed septic systems there for a long time, and I'd help with that as a kid, and it was my summer job, and but yeah, that's all I've done.
And your grandpa kind of was the Mel, right? He was the
Mel was my great uncle.
Your great uncle,
yeah,
okay.
And because it would have been Mel's my dad's uncle, so he was in the business, but my grandpa started Burt Mastin Septic.
Burt,
and
okay.
And then my dad, he had bought out my grandma when my grandpa passed away.
Okay.
And then he took it on from there.
Okay. Because I think there was I remember seeing a truck or something. Did it say Mel Mastin on the side or something?
Yeah.
Like
So
that?
Mel and Bert had, as far as I understand, they had two separate businesses.
Oh,
so
okay.
Bert pumped septic tanks, and then Mel put them installed and did the kind of the installation, I think. And then Mel made septic tanks too, because that's where my dad bought his forms from.
Right.
So
you guys kept, you really kept the lineage, if you will, of staying in the
it's been
waste
in the
management business.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Waste management.
Waste management,
industry,
right.
There's some other terms we could call it, but
Yes.
you've heard them all, and probably
Right.
you.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
But the best is I like the little poop emoji. Is the marketing things I see floating around. I'm like, that's clever. That is clever. What?
I always like their trucks, man. Their trucks are just cool looking. You always see when you see his truck go by, you know it's Cody.
Well, it's not. It's not like there's only a handful of people in your industry around this town anyway. So it's not like there's. Really, probably 3 or 4.
Yeah,
really.
Yep.
Yourself included. So
yeah, there's not a lot. The trucks, that was my wife. She designed all those and had a vision with that, and I I don't know. It's we did the first one, and I was like, okay, that looks pretty good. So we started doing all of them like that, and we get a lot of compliments on them. So it's
it's in marketing wise, it's big. We had a friend of ours out in Arizona that had all of his. He was an air conditioning guy.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of his trucks were yellow, bright yellow. So no matter when you drove down the road and you seen a bright yellow truck, you knew exactly who it was. So it's the same thing with your trucks. When you see that, you go, oh. There's Cody.
Yep.
Well, if you can't see him, you'll smell him as they pass by.
Yeah.
Right.
I never really. He was complaining about my cows over here. I think my cows smell a lot worse.
Yeah, I was like, man, does that smell ever go away?
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you ever get immune to that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah, that's why I was asking Marty if the cows ever go away, because that'll hit you pretty hard over there.
Yeah, it does.
It does. Well, speaking of other industries, so I get a birthday card every year from my dentist and my eye doctor. Okay, and every year they ask me, or they say in there, "Happy birthday, tell Cody hi." And there's a story behind that, because nobody on planet Earth has had more terra firma and dirt and crap shoved in their face, in their teeth, in their eyes than me from him. So my dentist and my eye doctor love him. It's like still picking out dirt years after. So I got to share this story. So speaking of that, so this is probably 2005. You were riding a Yamaha YC250. So was I. We both had a lot of them bikes, by the way. In Harrison National Enduro. Okay. I don't know if you remember this, but they had they made this really neat entrance to almost like a tunnel type of thing as we took off. So we took off in that field. Was that the Buzzards? The Buzzard Buzzard MC or something like that, or Buzzard? Do you remember that?
I do. I don't remember what they called that.
It was Harrison. I know it was Harrison.
Yep.
We take off, Marty. It's summer. Okay. We take off. We take an immediate left. It was kind of like a dog leg right, immediate left. Cody takes off first. I'm right behind him. Left hand turn, and he just revs that bike, and I'm like, oh God, oh God. And he just lets her loose in the dirt and the sand go under my helmet, up through the goggles, and it's just an explosion of dust and debris. And he takes off, and now I'm mad because I can't see nothing. I literally had to pull off the trail and take my goggles off and shake them out, because I I couldn't see anything. And, it's like, so then coincidentally, your bike blew up.
Oh yeah.
Your bike blew up, and I, seen it back at the one of the pits or whatever, and you're kicking and kicking. I'm like, karma sucks. You just absolutely.
Well, you do anything you do to be first, right?
He did, and he was on the gas. I mean, literally from the first turn on. It's like, oh my gosh, dude, I can't.
I don't really remember that first turn, but I thought you were going to start it off with saying you rear-ended me. You took me out.
No, but that has happened.
Yeah, that has happened more than once.
More than once, a couple times. We were racing, I think, a Southern Ohio enduro, and we were going. Remember, we were going down this hedgerow, and for the audience that doesn't know, Cody is and was extremely fast on a dirt bike in the woods. Okay, so just trying to latch on to him was extremely difficult. Number one. And then what you don't want to do is hit the guy that you're trying to latch onto. So we go down his hedgerow, back up and around. Cody starts getting on the gas. I'm right behind him. He slides out, and I can't stop. I mean, I cannot stop. Bang, right into the side of him. We both go down. I feel terrible because, like, oh my gosh, I just hit my buddy. Although it wasn't. That wasn't the first time. And I'm laying down. We're both in a hurry trying to get and I can't pick my bike up. I'm like, what in the Sam hell's going on here? And I look over, and Cody's standing on my front wheel picking up his bike.
I saw that on Supercross once.
There you go.
Yeah, I saw it, and I was like, oh, I know how to fix this.
You pulled that trick out of the hat.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Then there was that time at what was that? Play Barney's.
Remember
that?
Yeah.
That was the first time I hit you.
Yeah.
I mean, what are friends for?
Yeah. Make it interesting. That's for sure.
It's like, hey man, I'll pit for you today, but next weekend I'm gonna wipe you out.
Yeah. Just clean me out.
Yeah.
I've had that problem a couple times. I rode with a gentleman out in Arizona for years and years and years, and we always, he rode a TT 600. So you talk about getting dusted every once in a while. It was more like rocks. So he'd grab a handful of throttle, and it'd be like a shotgun. You just get pelted. So, head down. You as soon as you see he's going to take off or get into something, you just head down and, just feel the stuff bounce off you. I still got a chest protector, I think, with chunks taken out of it, that he did that many 30 years ago.
What's a TT?
It was
that a Yamaha?
It was Yamaha. It was sort of, I think it was an on off road. He had, I think it had a light, but he had everything else taken off it. But just a monster of a bike. I think it weighed like 500 pounds, and but he rode that everywhere in the desert. And we were doing the same thing, and he's probably 10, 15 years older than me. And so I was telling him, I was, you're so slow today. It seems like he'd pick it up. So we were out riding, and back that day I was running 2-strokes. So we do loops because we didn't go very far because we had to get gas every time, with the 2-stroke stuff. And so we take off. I said, man, we're coming in. I was picking on him. So every corner we get in, I'd get in the rear end, and I'd bump him a couple times, So we got back and we filled up. And
that's what friends do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like.
It'd be really great if you, if you take and would go a little bit faster. I said, I can't go so slow. I keep running in the back of you. So we take off. And we came out of the trees a little bit, and it was just a straightaway. Of course, he just leaves you in that 600, and I'm running a 250 2-stroke, and he just, all of a sudden, he disappears, which he launched off about a 6-foot drop off down into a sand wash. And he was, by the time he's in 4th or 5th gear. So as soon as he landed about a foot deep, it just blah, and fell over. And about that time, I'm coming off the ledge.
Oh no.
And it's like, this is not going to be good. So same thing, pile right in the back of him. Like you said, bikes intertwined. We're laying there, we're laughing. The bikes are stopped. And also like,
I don't think I was laughing.
No.
It's like, I think my leg's on fire because, now the pipe's on my leg.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, I'm like, get up.
Yeah.
So he goes, after that, he goes, I'm following you. I'm not, you're not going to run into me anymore, so. But Cody wouldn't do that for you, though, huh?
No. Well, when you're in a race, that makes a huge difference. And
he wouldn't just let you go by. And
no. Well, there was a couple times. Actually, it's funny because on the way here, Vincent rode with me, and he said, I said, you remember Daddy's buddy Cody? Oh yeah. And I said, well, he's on the podcast. He goes, oh really? I said, yeah. I said, he was a really great racer, really fast. And he's like, well, did he ever beat you? I said, oh, he beat me a lot. I said, but I think we kind of, like when I was younger, we were both younger. I think I was a little ahead of you. And then, and I wrote it down because I think, if I remember right, you really took off as far as your speed and your talent and your ability, in my opinion, when you got in that 400 KTM. Would you agree with that assessment? I mean, we were, I would say we were fast on 80s. I remember.
Yeah, you were always faster than me when I was not really that great on mini bikes. I mean, I didn't feel like it, but I know probably, I would say 2004. I wrote it. Probably 2004 is when I felt like I was getting a little
better.
Yeah, I felt like I was actually,
you were improving.
Yeah. And that was, I don't know, all the years are going together, but probably, I think in 04 I wrote a WR 450 Yamaha.
Yes.
And I actually went to Randy Hawkins, and Dale helped me strip all the emissions, all the stuff off of it, and made it more of a race ready WR. And the only reason I got it was because Dale was Randy's mechanic, said he'd help me strip all the heavy, all the stuff off it. And I thought, well, let's try it. Let's see, and that was great because it had electric start, and back then in 04, that was kind of a big deal. So I rode GNCCs that year, and I think it was 4-stroke A class at that point or something, but yeah, it was. That's kind of when I feel like I was starting to get like, oh hey, I'm getting better, and but the turn, I think, was when I went on gas. I think that was. Yeah, I think that was.
You're probably. I'm thinking a little bit more before, because you went from a Suzuki big wheel 80.
Yep.
Again, I hope the memory works.
Yep.
To a 400 KTM.
No, rode a 250 Yamaha.
250 Yamaha.
Yep.
98. It was a 98. Wasn't it?
Think it was.
It was a 98. Was it when they went from the dark blue Yamahas to the kind of the lighter blue, which you see now.
And I don't remember exactly how that happened, but I remember riding an 80 big wheel, and then my dad had the 250 Yamaha, and I raced it. I believe the first time I rode it at Okeechobee GNCC.
Yeah.
And like the sportsman's class or something.
We were all down there.
Yeah. And ever since I rode it there, I rode it that 250 for I think the rest of that year maybe, and then I went to the 400. And I think I had the 400. Yeah, I think something like that.
I just remember, I don't know why, I just remember like still kind of being the same speed with you, and then all of a sudden, like you just, and I swear in my mind I always thought the 400 KTM kind of, because I think you were doing a lot more racing.
Yeah.
A lot, the nationals, not the GNCC, because we kind of got away from, when I say we, your family, you and your dad, me and my dad, and I think we got away from that. Thank God.
Yeah, right.
Oh my gosh, them national, those.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to be a tough dude and you want to be a good racer, go race GNCCs. I mean, they're no joke.
Yeah,
I enjoy them. I enjoy them probably more than I do enduros.
GNCCs.
Yeah, a little more open.
They're open,
so the speed's up a little bit more. I'm not trying to ride, stay upright, watch a counter and in time, and
right?
All that kind of stuff. I can only do like one or two things at a time, and so riding and staying up is all I can about manage.
Right.
So that's usually where on a GNC I can usually stay, in a wider trail and stay upright most of the time, and
right,
that kind of stuff.
Did you? I don't remember. I just don't remember how you finished in the GNCC. Did you do fairly well at any of them?
So I
didn't go to them.
The 4-stroke A, that year I rode it on the Yamaha. And again, I don't really recall this, but I remember going to like the first 6, 7, something like that. And then I did good. I think I won a couple, maybe had a couple bad races, but it kind of like all over the board, really. And then we just stopped going. I mean, it wasn't. I think we started. I don't know what the reason was, but I know I did not follow the whole series that year. And then
was your dad going to them too? Was he going to them?
No. Yeah, but I don't think at that time he was following the whole series.
We were not.
No,
we were back.
Yeah,
96.
Yeah,
95, 96, and
right.
Yeah. So my first time I ever went to a GNCC was with Cody and his dad and my dad, and remember we slept in the back of the
Brownsville, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Brownsville, Pennsylvania. Got roosted by Smith and Hatch and Summers. Remember that? We were on the line, and
Plessinger and Summers, they took each other out at the finish line. Out.
Remember we were handing Plessinger parts?
Yeah.
And this, just so the audience knows, this is Aaron Plessinger's dad.
Yeah.
And like one of the best finishes ever in a GNCC, and our first one. My first one I ever went and watched, and it was, and that was
crazy.
It.
Crazy.
Nasty day on a dirt bike. You raced that, didn't you? Or was it just your dad that raced?
No, I don't think I raced that. We rode that terrible one like weeks after.
Boyers.
Was
it a Boyers?
Terrible. He couldn't even get in the place, and they said, "Oh, we're still having the race, though." I mean, it was.
I think I have a picture at home, and both my feet are off the pegs, no goggles, just miserable, just misery.
Oh, Yamaha 125.
Yep. And we called that fun.
Yeah,
yeah,
that fun.
The last one I did was John Penn, the GNC.
Oh man, Millfield. Yeah. Isn't that Millfield?
Yeah. That was good because I got to bring this up and get it on record because AJ, Andrew, Sean, and Mitch Gerwin, I outlasted all of them. I'm not saying I lasted very long, but I outlasted all of those guys because they got off and said, "This is the worst race I've ever ridden." Because it is. It's definitely you're up here where you really ride in the hills.
Right.
And where you're riding the trees much, other than here a little bit, so it was definitely, and then it was wet, because usually it's either dry as a bone down there or wet, muddy,
right.
So they had a good couple of creek crossing,
I stand corrected. History has to be revised. My first GNCC was on a Honda 125, Millfield.
Down at John Penn?
Yes, we did race Boyers, and I did race that on a YZ 125, but I made one lap in 3 hours in absolute most miserable. I thought I'm going to be out here. I'm going to die out here because I can't make any of the hills. I had no clue what I was doing. My roll-offs exploded into like the third turn in, and I just remember being like so mad and so frustrated. Like, what am I even doing here? I don't even know what I'm doing. And then, obviously that kind of goes away with time. But I don't know if you were there or not. I know your dad was there, but
yeah, I don't remember that one.
I don't remember. It's been so long ago.
Yeah,
it's been almost 30 years ago.
Yeah, and
I think 25 years.
25. Yeah, probably 25 years.
Yeah. Gosh,
time's flying.
It is fun. It is flying. It's crazy. Well, I remember a story, so I got to share this because I wrote down multiple stories that I got to talk about because we got to get them on record. So, speaking of WR 450s, so there was a little track, private track, a friend of ours track over in Monclova, and Cody shows up. There's the owner of the property is not even there. Okay, there's 15 people on dirt bikes out in the woods, and we're having a blast. We're just hanging out. It was a lot of fun. And Cody says, "I'm going to jump the ditch." Now, Cody, again, 4-stroke A. He's got a lot of confidence going. I understand, you want to jump a ditch, right? But I hope the camera can see. So here is the takeoff, okay? Here is the landing. And I'm looking, and I'll never forget this. So Cody said, he says, there's a little bump. There's a little bump. I think I can get over it.
Gonna see hop that thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
okay.
When I say a little bump, it was literally that tall. and I'm like, okay, well, I didn't really think he was serious. And all of a sudden, We're kind of standing around. We're standing along the edge of this ditch. We cleared out the other side. You heard this 4-stroke coming fast. And all of a sudden it was like the Dukes of Hazzard. All the way across. He lands on the other side. He does not clear it, as physics would tell you. Okay. All of a sudden, bottoms out the suspension, and every guy, it was just the loudest kabang, and every guy there goes, oh, just like, grabs ourselves, because we know what just happened to Cody.
Yeah.
And he doesn't crash. He cases it, turns around, comes back, and he's like, well, I didn't, I don't remember what you said, but we were just like,
I don't think I quite made that lip. I didn't.
he didn't, we apparently should have brought a shovel. And, but yeah, that was, I don't know, just something I always stuck out to me as a story.
Well, that's why I did it. I remember that you remember that one for a long time.
Legendary story.
Yeah.
That's one I won't forget.
It for a while.
Oh yeah, I did. I felt it for a while too.
Yeah.
Oh man. That was a rough one to watch. But.
So at what point in time did your sister come on board and start running around with you guys racing?
So she rode mini bike, like 80s, and she was
smoked us.
Yeah, she was super
I didn't
fast.
want to say that, but I was hoping maybe he would say that.
No, I'm very open on that. She would go to radars, like radars, the little track, and there was there was some pretty fast local kids that would show up there, and she would put a hurting on them. She would beat them in the woods, and then she'd go. We did motocross too, and that's where I didn't really shine very well. And but she just had no fears on mini bikes. She was really good. And
she did the big double up there at Milan, didn't she?
Yeah, I think she was probably one of the first 80s to jump it. But we went to it's Twisted now, but when it was Milan, we went there, Delta, and Sandusky, and that was kind of like our local tracks we always hit. Well, some old names like Ian Hammond, Billy Dittman.
Yes.
There's
Nate Brer.
Nate Brer.
Who passed.
Yep.
Because her and him battled a lot out at Radars.
Radars, yeah. Yep. But she would hang with those guys on an 80, and it was crazy. It was and for being a girl, she was fast. And
I remember the first time I ever met her was at Speedway at the gas station.
Oh, okay.
She had, I want to say she had two, but I think she had two bikes out of Indiana. Was there somebody sponsoring you out of Indiana? Where'd you get your bikes at? You had a dealer I thought was getting you some bikes.
I don't remember Indiana.
Was it Indiana? I thought it was Fort Wayne or something like that. Or
no, I don't think so. I rode for not her. No, I don't.
I thought there was someplace. She was taking bikes back to wherever they were getting. She was getting some new ones. That's how I happened.
Okay.
I had to say this, and that's why I brought up, her name is because, I've been in a number of places around the United States, and we talk about, we talking dirt bike guys and girls and all this kind of stuff. We're always talking about that, and we get talking about that. Oh, I live in Ohio. Like, oh yeah, I know a rider or two from over there. Like, oh yeah, She goes, did you ever know Mandy, Mastiff? Like, yeah. And Cody? Oh yeah, and Cody too.
Yeah.
And it was so funny. And then Marty, my buddy of mine in Arizona, Marty Hawk, he watched your family in Arizona, which I was like, Cody? He goes, yeah, and I would imagine you probably raced against him back in the day, like when you said you were up at, in Wickenburg racing and stuff, because that's what, that's where he does, and still racing out there.
Yeah.
And it was so funny, like we were talking, like, oh yeah, Mandy. And it's like, oh, okay, and Cody, right? Like, oh yeah, and Cody too.
Yeah, right.
So she must have made a pretty good impression. Too.
Yeah,
Cody must have not so much apparently.
Yeah,
his sister outshined him apparently because everybody knows him.
Yeah, she was popular.
Cody as much.
Yeah, she was. Because she after many 80s, she took a break. Then. She went to a 6 days with me and Dad. That would have been 2000. I don't know. She came back, started riding.
Was that France?
She rode France. So
France.
she started riding. So that France, I think, was 2000. I don't know. 2001. Yeah, she went with Dad and I to Spain in 2000. And I think it was. And then the next year was 2001 was France. I think I got my years right. And she qualified as the women on the women's. And I don't know if they had a team, but I don't think they had like I know they didn't have the, what is it now? The women's trophy team or whatever.
World Cup or whatever they call it.
But so she got into that. She went to Spain with us, and I think at that point she just really liked that format. And then after that, I think she's done, I don't know, 10, 12 of them or something. Yeah, I mean, she's done.
Because it would have been like 2002, 3, 4, somewhere when I first met her.
Yeah.
So now, your dad raced?
Yep.
You race?
Yep.
Your sister race?
Yep.
And your mom went along just to keep you guys
so
out of trouble.
My mom didn't actually go very much. If it was a cool trip, like
Spain,
a lot of the 6 days she went to, she'd go over there and do, and just go with us and enjoy the trip. When I was younger, when I was trying to get better at riding, I would take off for like a week and go out west and ride, whatever. I'd just go. And,
Colorado a lot.
Yeah, that. And, I find myself in California racing some enduros and hit some local enduros and then hit a national and then find myself in that sweet spot of Wickenburg and then,
City.
Yeah. And then, so my mom, my dad would be working. So I was fortunate enough that he sent us on our way in a big old Freightliner truck and take off, and we'd go and we just did so my mom went on a lot of stuff like that, but
cool.
not like racing. She didn't go to much,
one of those moms just don't want to see a race, right?
Yep.
She just wants to hear how good you did when you get back home.
Yep, exactly. But so that's kind of how Mandy got to where she was at. But.
Definitely a family sport. We always talk about that, how much of a family sport it is.
Yeah.
Well, I remember in you and your sister would not know this, but like I remember growing up with you guys and racing. I heard a couple things a couple times that people said that probably shouldn't have said, but about your sister. Oh, there's a girl that races. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Well, that girl's going to beat you today. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then with you, it was always, boy, that's a big boy. Yeah, that big boy's going to whomp you today. You're only going to see him for about two turns, and then he's going to be by you. But I always heard that, and it was like, you just screwed up. You shouldn't have said anything like that. So I don't know. You just, something I always remember. It's like, people are like, oh man, a big guy can move. They can move. You could.
Especially like Mandy, though. I mean, I don't know how much women they had racing back then. So she's riding with guys,
right,
and putting a hurt on them. So it's funny because I mean she's definitely well known throughout the circuit, along with you too. So maybe we should have had her on.
Yeah.
She's episode 16.
Okay.
There we go. Yeah, we'll get that on there.
Okay. But no, I mean which is really cool though. I mean, people, know the riders and stuff too.
Well, they had we just talked about that today or the other day.
Yeah.
They as far as the ISDE, Cody, Mandy, and Randy had they called it the Family RS, wasn't it? The Family R. And I don't remember the country.
Czech Republic.
Okay. Yep. So they had their own club team, the three of them.
Oh wow.
And I'll never forget this. So like, back in that internet day, you logged on the internet, right? And then it was like
to get 3 hours.
No, it was like,
logged in.
There's a picture. Here's a third of the picture. Another, and I remember the first picture that popped up at that 6 days was your dad on the AMA site or Dirt Rider, whatever, one of them sites. And it talked about the three of them. They had I think the AMA put out a press release about the three of them being on the first time a family was on a club team together. And that was really cool. And you think that's not been matched yet, right? Has that been the only?
I don't think so. I don't, like I said, I had.
I haven't heard of anything.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think so. I'm not positive on that.
Yeah.
But I don't believe so. I know there's been other family or father son combos, but I don't think as a family. No, I don't think so.
But how cool is that? I mean, you stop and think of all the different sports, playing soccer here or softball or baseball or, football or whatever. How many how many in the family, usually it's, whoever's playing and everybody else is watching, but how many families actually get involved in the sport and actually playing with each other, against each other? And then the next thing is how many times does any of those sports take you anywhere? I mean, think about riding in Czechoslovakia.
.005.
Racing, I've been to four
countries. Then of course you've been. I was watching some of your pictures. You've been in Romania.
Yeah,
you rode with.
The
Enduro Engineering guys right out there.
Yep.
Which looked like a fantastic.
Yeah, that was cool. That was cool. But yeah, racing 4 different ISDs.
Spain.
Yep. Spain, Czech Republic,
Poland,
and Slovakia. Yeah.
Like I said, what other sport takes you to places like that? I mean, that's amazing.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
And you rode two of those. Spain, sure. Was
3 of them were junior.
Because I think you and I were actually very close to both being on the junior.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But remember, we had that qualifier down there in Texas. Bill's Woods.
Yeah.
That's a story.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's 3. I think there's 3 of them. I was on a
Poland. You were junior
Poland,
trophy.
Yep, and then Slovakia was too.
Yeah, Poland. I raced that one. I was there with you.
Yep.
And then it was you and Wally Palmer, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wally and
Wally was on quite a few of them. With me. I think maybe besides Spain, I think the rest of them was Wally was there. I think Paul Neff was on one of them. Yeah, there was I think Paul might have been on 2 as well, but yeah, it's so many years ago, man.
I know, but it seems like yesterday. It seems like just
Ryan Powell. He was on
Ryan Powell.
Yep, he was on
from Washington. Wasn't he Oregon or Washington? He was out that way somewhere.
California, maybe.
Was he California?
Yeah. No, maybe. Somewhere out that way. He might have been up. Yeah.
Somewhere.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that was a lot of good memories.
Yeah.
So when was the last race you done?
Last race. That would have been.
His short term is not as good as his long term.
Yeah. I don't have any term. Any term.
Yeah.
Midterm.
Yeah.
So I'll be honest with you. So I've always wanted to win the Jack Pine Enduro, and I raced that. I don't know how many times, and probably like the last 6 times, 7 times, 8 times. I don't know, but I've been competitive enough that I feel like I could have won it, but I never did. And the last year that I raced, I won Jack Pine, and then I honestly think like it was just kind of like one of those goals that I've wanted for so long that once I did it and accomplished it, I quit racing. That was my last year of racing. I didn't race after that. So I mean, if it was, I could hear like a 1 or 2 race, but never following any series. So and then with helping Al with the NEPG, that kind of came into play there. So that kind of took me off of, it was either like race or help Al. And I decided at that point, I was like, oh, I'll do that and help Al do that. So, but yeah, that was probably I don't know if that was 2014, maybe 2014.
And you've won the District 14 Enduro Championship 3 or 4 times?
Yeah. I think it's 3 or 4.
3 or 4.
Sure, yeah.
I couldn't look it up. There's nothing online.
Yeah.
I tried. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I failed as a friend.
No, you're good.
I won't hit you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
You won them, and the 07 was your first enduro championship, overall championship, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yep. That was your.
You got hurt.
Yep.
And so we got to talk a little bit about that because, you know, I was there. So what happened is, and I don't want to steal your thunder, but
no, take it.
As a racer and a friend, I started several minutes behind Cody, and it was at a District 14 Enduro, 2007, Goshen, Indiana. It was the last race of the year, and
2-day.
It was a 2-dayer.
Yep.
And I come across the cornfield, and I looked up ahead, and I'll never forget seeing he had a bright yellow helmet. He always had yellow helmets for some reason.
Yeah.
And which is good. You could pick him out.
Yeah.
Like before you hit him, you could see him.
Yeah,
exactly.
Started wearing yellow after Matt started following.
Maybe he was a target. It was a target. So anyway, I see him laying in the field. I'm like, man, what's going on? And I was not in any kind of championship hunt. I was actually leaving to go to Chile literally 2 days after that. So I tossed the bike off to the side, and there's Cody on the ground. I mean, in agonizing pain, and he's a tough dude. And I'm like, man. So we got help. I actually got back on the bike, went over into the woods. There were some people hanging out. Told them to call 911, and they came probably pretty fast. And
it didn't feel fast, but
no, probably not at the time. In my for being out in the middle of who knows where.
Yeah.
I mean, and thank God those people were out in the woods. Because it would have been a while before a course marshal would have came. So anyway, ambulance came and actually when I got back, remember they had the splint on your leg? They fastened the splint, and I'm like, get that off his leg,
That was a rider.
Was it a rider?
Yeah, remember he had all the sticks with the zip ties around me?
There you go. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm like...
Besides, my leg wasn't broke, though. But.
No, we thought...
The leg wasn't broken, he still splinted it?
Yeah.
We thought his leg was broke, and, that was the assumption. And so, they hauled him off, and then we had to meet him at the urgent care there in Goshen, Indiana. But I'll let you kind of elaborate what happened, and then we'll kind of walk through that a little bit. Because it's a big part of your story.
Yeah, it
is to this day.
Yeah, it changed my life for sure. So... going into that race, I was within I think 1 point or 2 points of Blair Bersano, and I had to beat him one day to win the District 14 championship, and that would have been my first one I ever got. So I think there were 6 sections that day, and going in or through the 5th section, Blair was a couple minutes ahead of me. And I come up around a turn, and Blair's sitting there kicking his bike. And I'm like, immediately, I'm like, okay, I've won. All I got to do is go to the finish, and I've beat him, and that's all I need to do. So as enduros work back then, the time cards you had on your front fender, you could tell how you're doing, this and that. Well, Leonard Keene, he was a real good friend of mine at the time. He had came up to me and he says, "Hey, did you see Blair was in the woods kicking?" I said, "Yeah, I did." He says, "Well, hell, you got this beat. You got it won." I said, "Yeah, it's sweet." He said, "Hey, by the way, how you doing today?" I'm like, "Crap, Leroy had me beat by a minute." So, as a smart man, I should have been like, "You know what, Leroy? I don't care. You can have it today." Well, I didn't. So the last section of the day, I tried kicking her up a notch, and wouldn't have changed anything really, but come out of this woods, and as far as you could see, there was it was cornfield. Well, it was cut, so it had all the corn stubble, and I get going, all of a sudden I'm catching a slower guy ahead of me, so I never chopped the throttle. I cut like 4 corn rows over off the main trail, and so I'm out in that field, and I'm just tucked and going, and felt like I was doing 90 mile an hour, but on a YZ250 it's about 55 probably. So I'm going and going, and
with a breeze behind you.
Yeah. Right. And so I and all of a sudden, last minute, I saw this huge rock right in the middle of the field, and at that point you can't do anything, so you just get ready for it, and that was pretty much the last thing I kind of remember until I woke up to the guy putting the sticks on my leg. And And then I was in and out. You know, I was kind of like, you know, just in shock. So I, at that point, you look down and your leg's going all sorts of ways. So you're like, all right, I broke my leg, you know. But what I didn't understand is why I was in so much pain. You know, I'm like, man, I actually witnessed Matt break his leg one time, and he was laughing about it. And I'm like, man, I'm so weak. Like, why? You know, Matt's over here laughing about it, I'm over here crying. And so like,
well, it didn't make sense to me either. I actually felt good about myself. I'm like, I'm like, dang, you know, I was telling jokes. Cody's crying.
Yeah, I was crying, man. I was hurting. And so they get me up on I don't know, like a UTV or something. Yep. I don't know if you were there for that, but don't remember a lot of that until I got to the hospital, and they must have put me out under anesthesia, you know. And well, in between all this, I had two big doctors or nurses like on top of me, and I'd wake up to me screaming like at the top of my lungs, and then I'd like pass back out, and then I'd wake up. And, well, come to find out later down, I dislocated my knee. And when I did that, I severed my main artery.
Oh.
So that's where all the pain was coming from. So, they were gonna amputate my leg there, or from the knee down, because it wasn't a trauma unit. So at the time, my girlfriend at the time, she was, you know, demanding that I get out of that hospital. Right. And so next thing I remember, I'm flying in an helicopter, and I remember making a joke. Well, I don't know if it was a joke, but I asked the helicopter guy, like, I was very uncomfortable, like it was the worst, like,
yeah, you said it was the worst ride ever.
The worst ride ever, and you can't move your head. You know, I'm a big guy, so I'm strapped into this little area, and I'm just not feeling it, right? And I asked the helicopter guy, and I remember this, like, hey, how much further is this ride? I'm not feeling it. And he's like, 2 minutes and 37 seconds. He says it to the second.
Yeah.
And I said something to him like, God, why are you messing with me, dude? And but he probably, you know, later had had that probably on a screen, right, so, you know, and so, flight time. But me and him didn't see eye to eye in that flight, yeah. But yeah, it was, and then got to the hospital, and I was there for, I don't think I was there for a week, 7 days or something, and went through a lot of stuff. They set me up with, they were still gonna amputate the leg, and because it was dead, you know, all the muscles and everything were dead, so they were gonna go through all that process. So I saw oh my gosh, can't think of the
ortho
or not an ortho, but a specialist to do the fake leg prosthetic. There you go. So I went through all that, and that was kind of like really sinking in. Like, okay, if I'm seeing a specialist on this, it's coming, you know. And then they had it. I think it was like pretty soon, the next morning or something real, coming up soon. I was scheduled to kind of go down this road, and all of a sudden I got a little flicker from my toe, and it was like, oh my gosh, you know, it's
alive.
Yeah, it's still alive. It's alive. So it was from there forward. It was all up to me to with working it and going through physical therapy and everything. But
so you severed the artery, so they redid the artery back together again, so blood could get flowing through. Yep.
And
they routed it around your knee, didn't they?
Yeah. So
down your leg.
I've learned a lot about that in this whole process, and your arteries behind your knee, kind of all tucked behind the joint, and so it's protected. Now the worst part is mine is right on the side, like you can feel it right there, and so that's always kind of a scare riding, back riding again. I kind of have that. It's kind of gone now, but when I first started, I'm like, anything, in the woods, stick, log. I mean, like, it's anything can catch you. And, so I got a CTI brace, and it kind of protects it a little bit more. And, but took me forever to get back trying to ride. I mean, that was the toughest thing.
Because just if the audience can see on YouTube, from my understanding of it, if this is your femur and here's your tibia fibia, you hit the ground so hard as you went over the front of the bike.
Yep.
And you planted into the field. You went like this. Wasn't that true?
No, I think it was more like it went this way. My tib fib came up towards my face. Like,
oh, okay.
And that, because that's where, and then
that's what severed the artery.
Yep, because it pulled it apart, up towards me, like my toes were in my face. Mm-hmm. And so that was what severed it. And then I developed drop foot, and they wanted to fuse in my ankle, and it just went through all this, and I kept going to therapy, and it finally got to where it's manageable now. I live every day, but it's
you don't forget it.
No, won't forget it. And I think at that time you brought up Chile. My dad and sister.
And my dad.
Yeah.
They were in Georgia.
At a
national enduro.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my mom, she was home, and she come over to Fort Wayne. So I got life flighted from Goshen, Indiana to Fort Wayne. And my mom came over there, and I believe my mom was supposed to go to Chile, but she didn't.
I don't think she did.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No.
And but because at that point I was pretty much helpless. So
yeah,
it was scary. It was. We went from he's got a broken leg, he's just being a big wuss and crying about it.
Right.
He's got. So what I remember distinctly about that was. And motorcycle racing is not dangerous, just so everybody knows on the podcast here. No, it's what fluky things happen, and you were, and I wrote this down. You were not a crasher. You were always. I mean, you would have tip overs. We all do that, right?
Yeah.
But you were not known as a, injured all the time kind of racer. You were fast but you were calculated. You know what I mean? You didn't take a lot of huge chances. So this is just a fluky thing. But I remember when we got to the hospital in Goshen, it was like they're talking about amputating. What? That's my buddy in there. You're going to take his what? And man, and then what put me over the edge was when he was down the hall behind closed doors, and we heard him screaming from in the room. And I'm just like, we all lost it. I mean, it was just like, you dealt a blow, and now he's like in pain. So it's like, oh my gosh, and then he, for me, selfishly, it's like, he's trying to win a championship. I'm leaving in 2 days to go to Chile, and it's like, it's just all wrapped into one. And then the funny part was, I should say funny. Speaking of the helicopter, their life flight, they're like, well, we're going to get him there faster if we take him on the helicopter. And I remember because then we had to load everything up, and then we're freight training Dan Janis, Leroy, and guys that are racers. We all quit our race to go be with him. We're freight training down to go to Fort Wayne, and here's a helicopter flying. As we're rolling in the parking lot, here's the helicopter. I'm like, why? We could have got him there. We could have saved his insurance company $100,000 or whatever it was, But anyway, so it was just, and to me, the best part of the whole story is, and he cost me $500 because I don't know if you remember.
No.
When you got home, he's in a hospital bed. You had the wound vac.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's not going anywhere. So you remember your parents set you up in the sunroom.
Yeah.
And he starts playing Xbox or something like that. So I went out and bought a PlayStation.
Oh yeah.
I had to trump him. So I come over to visit him, and I got this damn PlayStation in my hand, and he's like, dude, you bought a PlayStation? But yeah, I bought a PlayStation. Well, yeah, $500.
Yeah, I had to kill the time with something. I mean, I was laying in a hospital bed for 6 months. I mean, I don't think I worked for a whole year. And it was crazy.
It's funny, it's not funny, but I mean, you talk about it not being that dangerous, but you really watch a lot of pro riders and a lot of riders. They get hurt bicycling while they're practicing or training or
Yeah.
whatever. It's like you're like how did he get hurt on a bicycle? But they're doing 20 miles a day or 40 miles a day, or whatever it is.
Right.
But like they're jumping 35 feet in the air and they're going through trees at 70 mile an hour. And they get hurt at a bicycle. It's like, but I think it's a different mentality when you are racing. That your concentration level is so much higher, and all that kind of stuff. So
well,
it
it's
does
through the
change.
roof.
Yeah.
And in the triumphant part of it was, you ended up winning the championship.
Yeah.
You couldn't make the banquet.
No.
No.
I kind of did.
Yeah, the cutout.
Yeah, Leroy made a 6-foot cardboard cutout, and I
You were there.
So I made a speech. I wrote down what I would say in a speech, and then I believe I wasn't there, but they set my cutout up on the stage, and I think Leroy might have said the speech from his seat with a microphone, and
there you go.
So and it was cool because afterwards there was like kids and whoever, they set the cutout of me up next to like the banner, and kids would come up, take pictures next to me and stuff, and I was like, well, that's cool, but I'm not there. I'm like,
wish it wasn't that, but
yeah.
Well, you still won, and then and I think that in my opinion, what was really your comeback story is not that, because at that point it was over, right? I mean, you got injured, and Blair quit, or his bike DNF'd or whatever, and you won.
Yep.
But the real comeback story was several years later, and I don't remember the year. I apologize.
Yeah.
But you came back. You rode a race. You kept getting a little better and a little better and a little better, and then all of a sudden, old Cody is back. Hauling the mail through the woods. And when did you win again for the second time? Was that
I don't remember.
2010?
I don't know. I don't know. I can't. But it was probably
several years.
Yeah,
later.
several years later.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like after I came back from my wreck, I was faster then than I was before.
All that working you were doing, all that therapy.
Yeah, right. They kicked me in shape. Yeah.
In shape.
Yeah, it was so my goal was, when I was laying there for 6 months in a hospital bed in my parents' sunroom, I was like, I want to race Goshen a year later. And I want to get that monkey off my back.
Yes.
And so Dwayne Dusendang,
yep,
he an old friend of ours. He let me.
We will not have him on the podcast. You know how many times we'd have to bleep stuff?
Bleep.
Yeah.
So he let me borrow his bike, because at that point I didn't have a bike, and he was very meticulous, and anything that was aluminum on the bike, the exhaust was shined up.
Shine the finish right off the frame.
Yeah, and he had another Yamaha 250, and he said, "Hey, you can ride it." And I'll never ever forget this. He was like 2 minutes behind me at Goshen, and literally half a mile into this race, I buried this bike up to the gas tank, and I'm like sitting there looking at it, and Dwayne comes by, and he's like looking, he's like, "Dude, are you kidding me?" He takes off, and I'm like, man, Dwayne is probably so mad right now, because I'm going to give the bike back to him at the end of the day, and he's going to have to go and wash it. And oh man, that was funny.
And I'm going to guess that was the last time he let you borrow it.
I don't think there was not even an option. But Dwayne, if you're listening, I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
That was nice of you.
No, that was a classy move by Dwayne, and that was really cool. And I remember that year, whatever year it was, I want to say it was like 2010, 2011 ish. And you came back and you won the championship again.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember the years, but it was I think 3 years. I think it was 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
And then it was probably one of those years I was on a Husaberg 300, so I think that was a 2012. And then
how'd you like that bike?
Awesome. That bike was.
I had a 450, but I never had the two-stroke. But the 450 was It was
450
heavy.
Hoosaberg?
Yeah, it was a heavy bike, but as soon as you started rolling, because it had the reverse. Remember that?
Oh
was
yeah,
the
yeah.
reverse one?
I had one of those.
Yeah,
I
and
didn't
as soon as
like
you started riding it, it felt very light. You know, it felt really good.
Yeah.
You know, I rode it for a while until they went out of business. So
Yeah. So when KTM bought Hoosaberg, I think that's when they had a KTM, but they put the Hoosaberg plastic on it. Well, that was a 300 I rode, and it was either a 200 or 300 or 250. I can't remember, but that was the two-stroke was probably the best. That was an awesome bike.
Yeah. When you I
think that was the same year that Farringer won his 6-day or his Enduros.
Yeah.
On that.
I want to say it was like 2012.
It was 12.
2012.
Because that was I won't forget that year because that bike was good.
Yeah.
So it was I think a 2012. But
Well, in you and I were riding a lot together, and you actually helped me get a little faster. And I remember, so like before your accident and then after your accident, I noticed a big change in your riding technique. Again, from behind you.
Yep.
And
try not to hit rocks.
Yeah, as I peel stuff out of my eyes. But you started standing up a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, it's funny because a lot of guys in the club
That's
always
so I
ask-
can see the rock coming.
Yes.
that makes sense.
That's why.
That makes
Yeah, a
sense.
little higher up there. I can see that rock.
Makes total sense. But it's funny because a lot of guys in the club that I go trail riding with are like, man, you're always standing up. I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, I learned it from you. You know, it's like why didn't I learn that when I was 14, not 34 or whatever it was, or 24. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you learn along the way. But yeah, I mean, that was I remember going to the banquet, and when you came back and won, and that was you got a standing O on that one, man. That was awesome.
That was cool. That was probably my biggest accomplishment. That was definitely to come back and through all the crap I had to go through, but that was cool. But that was just the racer in me, Well,
I think your mindset and your determination and the overcoming. If you think about it, an enduro, really, in my opinion, is an absolute representation of life. It really is. You got to start, and you got different sections. So you got high school, you got family, you got business, you got all these things. And in between the sections, there's going to be adversity that hits, right? But the enduro spirit, is don't quit.
Yeah. Yep.
And you didn't, and you came back and you won, and that was really awesome to see. And I was glad to be a part of it, and I'm glad I didn't hit you again. And,
There's still a chance.
Yeah, there is. There is.
I'd go back that yellow helmet.
Here's the thing, though. I will tell you that 300 KTM, I went to the Roselawn Family Enduro last Saturday. That thing has awesome brakes on it. I mean, Bob put me over the bars. I mean, just because they're so strong, I couldn't believe it.
So the bike's not going to hit you; he's going to hit you.
Oh yeah,
I think it's time that I start following you.
Paybacks.
So talking about bikes. What's your favorite bike? Of all the bikes you had in your race,
all of them.
What was your favorite?
So, my favorite is that 2012 Hoosaberg. But there's a lot of different ifs and all that. Like you got your bike that you did the best on. You got the bike that you just remember because it sounded good, But like the best all around was that 2012 Hoosaberg.
Felt the most comfortable on it.
Yeah, this thing was just
fit for
stable. I mean, that thing was just no flaws to it. It was just awesome.
I think Farringer said that too.
He did. Yeah, he did.
About that time.
Yeah, I guarantee you he did. Those bikes were just. Al and I talk about it all the time. He had one, and we still talk, and that it's by far the best bike.
Yeah.
I mean, it was awesome. I mean,
what day would you say? Because I know for me the day, but I want to ask you, what day or a race or something did you feel like I don't know if I could be beat today? Like, is there a moment in time where you felt so good on your bike, like you didn't think anybody could beat you that day? I know you overhauled a lot of enduros, but I mean, obviously nobody beat you that day. But I mean, is there a race or a moment in time where
I don't know if there's an actual an actual race, that sticks out. But like I said, the years in like 2000, I don't remember the years, but after my accident, when I come back, I felt like there was a lot of good racing there. Like that I felt like, I was right where I don't, as best as I could be. And there was a couple nationals. I didn't get to race many nationals then because I was help working for Al.
Right.
But I did race Marquette, and I had to ride on a real early minute because I had to get done, changed, and help pack the race up. Yeah. So, like, I believe like that race, I did pretty good overall for a national, but I was on minute like 9 or something, and so there's some times that I always but like that I felt in that era, but no race in particular that sticks out, but yeah, that felt really good in those years right there.
Yeah. Well, I know you looked real good because, like I said, I was doing everything I can to stay with you, and I felt like at one point I really, in my opinion, really learned to control my breathing. Because I just remember, I don't know what race it was, but I was behind him, and we take off, and I'm like, man, I'm staying with him. I can't believe it. And it was just like I felt myself. I could breathe. Like before I get all hypervigilant. Then you wear yourself out, and you're ping ponging off trees, and I don't remember what race it was, but I just remember like we were just on the gas.
It's amazing too. I went to using the breathe rate strips.
Yeah.
When we ride in the desert.
Yeah, we rode.
And it's amazing how much once you do open up to be able to get the air in.
Yeah.
Amazing how much different you feel when you're riding, and how you end up.
Yeah.
And that sort of leads me into question a little bit too. So you're talking different things that help you. So you rode motocross a little bit.
Yeah.
And you rode the you've been riding off road. How important is it for doing suspension work in the woods versus like motocross? On motocross, I'm jumping through the air. I'm 30 feet in the air. I'm landing. I'm doing all this kind of stuff. How important is that you have a wood setup or a suspension work done? What's the average speed in a desert or in a woods race? 12 to 20 mile an hour, maybe.
Yeah. 12 to 18 mile an hour, 20 mile an hour.
So when you think about 18 miles an hour, it doesn't sound like very fast.
Right.
Till trees start buzzing by your head. But you think about that 18 miles an hour, that's not anywhere near the speeds of a motocross track. I mean, we've had, I know Jeff, Walker, I think he was clocked at 69 miles an hour on one of the sections, at ours. So, you're moving, there's lots of speed, lots of issues there. So tell me about your suspension. Tell me what is important about suspension.
So for woods, suspensions, it's huge, but for somebody that's an average rider, enduros is fairly smooth course. I mean, you have a trail that's in the woods. I mean, you get the Michigan trails, you might get some whoops, and but for the most part, an enduro is fairly smooth. So if you rode box stock suspension, you could still, I mean, at a medium, grade rider, you wouldn't notice anything. I think that's my opinion. But where I started getting there for a while, I didn't do a lot of suspension. I had to put stiffer springs in it because I had to. But after that, I didn't mess with the valving. I didn't do all this other stuff that everybody else was doing. But then all of a sudden, I got that in my head. Like, well, hey, if I want to go faster, I need to do suspension. I need to get it better. I need to do this. Well, and what that did to me was more of a mind game. Like it was all of a sudden when you get to that ditch crossing, you can jump it. You can, but that was to me
as long as the landing's right.
Yeah, as long as the landing's right, and you had a lip. You had to have a lip. So, but that was more of a it might have been a mind game, but it worked jumping that G out or that ditch or that log or whatever, so it does. It is key. That's for sure. And as I got, as you get better and faster, it does play a huge role. But
start moving through the stroke difference and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. We had Mitch Gerwin on last podcast.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they're sponsoring sponsoring tonight.
Yes.
This episode is brought to you by Ryder Power Sports, located in Waterville, Ohio.
Ryder Power Sports provides a host of services for your motocross and off-road machine. Ryder Power Sports is the home to the ever-famous turbo speed tuning, and now Fathom Ride Company.
Give Ryder Power Sports a call at 419-601-0421 and keep an eye out for their spring grand opening.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's our sponsor tonight, and that was one of the things we were talking about. Is I'm not much of a racer. I'm okay rider, and I shouldn't even say that, but I like to ride. I enjoy riding. But I was telling him too. It was we used to play around with putting some springs and putting some spacers and doing that kind of stuff to make the bikes ride a little bit better and handle a little bit better. But Mitch had done an off road. I used to get the bikes from Jim over at Championship.
Yep.
We'd get them and, we'd set the sag, we'd do that kind of stuff, and we'd go off ride them. I thought that was the greatest thing in the world, And then, like I said, I don't do much woods because we don't have much woods out here, a little bit up in Michigan, but, my primarily riding, 90% of it's in the desert, And so once Mitch jumped on boards and, did a off-road, more trail type of suspension, it's like, oh my gosh, how much faster.
Yeah.
So it's like anything, I guess, your equipment. You got great talent and stuff, but you can make things work. But man, when the equipment starts coming into play and it keeps getting better and better, it just makes I told Mitch, I called him. I said I went through a rock section, went to the top of the hill, and called him on my cell phone and said, I can't believe the suspension, because what I used to doggy paddle through, it was a bolt, like Wickenburg type thing. The rocks and stuff, and I'd go through and I just barely, because I'm scared to death, it's going to toss me off. On third gear, I blitzed through it to get to the other side and went, wow, that was sort of fast. And I'm like, wow, it handled it. So, and I, back in the young days when I'm a Pennsylvania boy, we rode the ruts, the tree roots, the rocks, that's kind of stuff that that really almost seemed to just hammer it more than a bump or whatever. It just seemed like it really works that suspension pretty good. So
I know, like I mentioned it when Mitch was on, and him and Tyler, the last podcast, but you said something to me very important on the way home from Goshen, 2005. We were both on gas.
Okay, so 5 or 6.
And we left, and it was just you and I, and we were coming home in the box van, and I had done well enough to get, I knew I was going to be I was going from open A to double A the next year. And you were already in the double A class. And I remember you said, dude, you've got to get, basically, I think you said, hey, you cheap ass. You've got to
bleep.
You've got to get your suspension done now, because you're in the double A class. You're going to be, you have to get it done now at this point in time. And I was like, yeah, he's right. And I think I spent the money the next year, but it made a difference. It made a little bit big difference.
Yeah. And Mitch, I don't know how long did you grow up around with Mitch?
No, honestly, probably in the last probably 7-8 years, I've known Mitch. But no, I haven't known Mitch for super long.
Well, they're doing a bang up job out there with suspension wise, and like I say, they've done all my bikes, like you say, we in both motocross and off road, and I was talking to the other day is now and probably. I was gonna mention that before. Now you've got your motocross and you've got your off-road stuff, but the adventure riding now and the dual sport stuff is coming on. So there's a lot of different riding now for like guys that decide, hey, I'm not really racing that much. If I want to go race one race, but you got the chance to go out and do a 5, 6, 8 hour ride and get to see the countryside on an adventure bike or a dual sport. You still get to do some dirt, you still get to use pavement and enjoy it. So I was telling him, I said, you need to start playing around with that a little bit, not quite off road, but not quite, motocross, but a little bit of road, it's going to have to be a play because it is a difference, now, because, we've always taken our off road bikes and went down the highway at 55 mile an hour for a stint. And the bike's doing all kinds of weird things,
Right.
So he's got to, do that, which he does good. I say, I handed him my bike. He never had done really much off-road stuff.
Yeah.
He came out of the box with it, to set it up. And it's amazing once, he gets his hands on it a little bit, like you said, set it up for you personally, which, I think when they come from the factory at about set for about 170 or so.
No.
I don't know.
I think that's what he usually tells me is that, realistically, the bikes usually are set up between that 60, 170 type of rider.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you're, lighter that or heavier than that.
All I know is I have the COVID-19 springs on my bike. No. Yeah.
I was checking with Mitch the other day, what kind of springs you got there? Heavier ones? But no, so it does, it's pretty cool, so.
Have you thought about, speaking of, I'm glad you brought that up, just out of curiosity, have you tinkered with the idea of doing any adventure riding? Is Al into that?
No. It's I have not really. No.
So you need to do is call Jeff
Stanton.
Oh yeah, I heard you were telling me.
He's got some adventure riding stuff out there.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that is cool.
Yeah, I don't know that. I'm sure I'd love it, but I'm not too seem geeked about it. But the adventure
the good
stuff,
thing, what Jeff Stanton's doing is,
I guess because the bikes are probably $15,000.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, they're available. You don't have to make a payment.
Right,
you don't have to, spend a.
But it's
huge
the adventure, though. I mean, he's putting your places to stay. There's food. There's, right. Cool. So it is an adventure.
That's the coolest part, and that's we brought up when I went to Romania. That the coolest thing about that was the adventure. We never stayed in the same hotel twice. We started in Cebu, and we went. We kind of rode the tamed down version of the Romaniacs.
Okay.
So it was
the Red Bull Romaniac.
Yeah, and we didn't hit the crazy stuff, but we hit some pretty gnarly stuff. We'd come around a corner and I'd be like, "You're kidding me!" There's no, And then we'd get up it, we'd go on to the next, and but that night we'd stay somewhere else, and then the next morning we'd get up. We had a chase truck that followed us around, and then we'd go to another spot, and that was. An adventure, and it was
was like an outfitter.
Yeah,
okay.
It was X Power.
Harder. It seems like almost impossible to try to manage that from over here.
Yeah. So X Power USA is an outfitter does Croatia, Greece, Romania, Italy. They have all over the areas, and there's a guy that's organizes it from the U.S. trying to market U.S. guys to go over there, and we had a really good group guys that went. We had Paul Krause, Scott Bright, Al, some. I went twice, so I had a couple different guys in it, but yeah, it was just a great. It was cool. It was a ton of fun. If you guys
ever get what I mean, essentially, it's what Stanton's doing, but in the state of Michigan, and but on different motorcycles.
Yeah, and that's what our intention is. If the COVID stuff goes away, to do the same thing with Carefree Adventures in Arizona, or even here. Is to provide that ride experience more off road than the adventure stuff. So
I know there's some. I think there's some. Some guys out there that may be interested in doing that for the 6 days of Michigan too. Yeah. That's coming up in July.
It's it's a good way to get out there and do it, and not buy a brand new bike to just do that. So
but if you were kind of teetering on the fence about it too, it'd be a great way to kind of try a bike,
check it out, and then if you like it, love it, do it.
You talked about your first time to Romania. Because you went before or after? You were before the Romaniacs, right? Or was it after? It was right there at the same time, pretty close.
Yeah, we would. I think it was before.
It was before
because we caught on to some ribbon here and there. But yeah, I think it was before.
I wish you guys would have gone about a month or two earlier.
Wait, I know it was before because we didn't have any trails down. Because Romania, there's no trail, so The crazy thing about Romania is it would be like leaving your house here and going wherever you wanted to go. They don't care over there.
Really?
There's no boundaries. There's not a fence in that whole country. And you ride. We never rode a trail the whole time we're there.
Is there a law in place?
No, there's no law. It's you ride.
Trespassing need not apply.
Trespassing is not a thing. And
Really?
We come down this big old hill, and we drop down into this guy's...
You can't like break and entering people's houses, can you? Or can
I don't know. Maybe. I didn't ask
want to
that.
make yourself a sandwich?
Yeah.
I need to take a nap.
Yeah. So, yeah. But we come down this hill, no trail, just come crawling, goating down this trail. All of a sudden, popped out in this guy's backyard. He's over there sitting on a chair with him and his wife. Just gives the big old smile and wave. And I'm like, you would be shot. In the U.S.
Yeah.
And I'm like... So we get up onto the road. We go down the road just a little bit, and we get ready to turn into this gate. And Attila was our guide. He gets off his bike, opens the gate up. I'm like, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Is this legal? What do you mean? I'm like, we can't do this in the States. You can't just like start opening people's gates.
Right.
And he's like, oh no, they don't care. You ride wherever. And I'm like, that's pretty wild.
Yeah.
That's it's interesting.
Totally different concept.
Yeah. And you just go, and you all of a sudden, if now we were running on the Romaniac's track, he had a GPS, we were following, but literally we went. There's no trail though. It's not like going to an enduro and following.
There's not a public riding area.
No, there's not arrows. Turn left here.
No, there's you literally make your own trail and you go, and it's there's no. I mean, you go anywhere you want.
It's the people's culture though is different there.
Yeah,
real friendly. Like you said, I can tell you now. You come popping out of my yard here. We come across my yard with a dirt bike or side by side or four wheeler. It's going to be like the dogs are going to be right behind you.
Yeah. No, so. It's wild. It's definitely
off road is huge in Europe, and I remember.
Right.
I remember. I don't know why I remember this, but I remember when we were in Poland or Chile, I can't remember which country, it doesn't matter, but on the television, like mainstream television TV stations, here is an enduro, world enduro on TV.
Yeah.
That you don't see national enduros on TV here, I mean, or the I always thought the missing link for this country, and I would love to find a way to do it, is do a prologue in the United States of America. Somehow, somewhere, do a prologue, because I think if you could get some people interested in it, get a town that can kind of buy into it, and you look at these prologues over in Europe, and look at the streets, filled with people. I mean, it's like a rock concert, but
racing is just not. People are not like totally enthused of racing as they are. Here as they are in Europe.
No, right? It's such a lifestyle.
Well, that 6 days you go to a grass track, a special test, and there'd be thousands and thousands and thousands of people there, and all you're doing is going in circles in a grass field. Like there is nothing exciting in this field, and it's not like you go to a Redbud and you see the guy jump Larocco's Leap and like, wow, that was cool. Well,
true. Yeah.
I mean, but you go over there in Europe, and you literally are following ribbon. In a grass field, and they are lined up with air horns, flags, chainsaws. I mean, like it's unreal. I mean, it's just crazy over there.
Well, for the longest times, motorcycles here in the States have been, like I said, and it's got worse over the years. When I grew up in Pennsylvania, and we could do the same thing. As long as if we open the gate, we close the gate. As long as we didn't let the cows out, and, we always carried a little tool and some staples with us. If we ever seen a farmer's fence down a little bit, we'd fix it, And so back then we could do it. Today, you fire a dirt bike up in there. I mean, you probably got 3 cops and everybody there, So it's got worse and worse and worse about people riding. And I think that's what sort of curtailed, that kind of stuff.
Well, it's the sound,
the sound,
the noise. Yep. People don't want to hear the noise, and, which we got to, as riders, we got to do a little better job with that, but.
And, like I say, at some point in time, there's different modes of motorcycles these days and stuff. So, not that it's going to happen all of that to do that, but at some point in time, people are going to learn,
Yeah.
And I think we brought this up at, I was trying to think who it was I was talking to when I talked to the FMF manufacturer, the exhaust, and at one of the dealer meetings for KTM. And I said, we were talking about stuff, and he actually told me the one rep was there, that it's getting harder and harder for them to build exhaust that's better than the factory. Factory exhaust, they are just doing such a great job of getting the most power, doing all that kind of stuff, and still being quiet. That's not what people want. They want to hear it.
Right.
But and sometimes they hurt their stuff more than they do, by just leaving their exhaust on what it is. They get more power out of it. Now, once you put all that aftermarket exhaust on, they got to do a bunch of other stuff to make it work to get the same thing, probably what you're getting before, But it is. It's it's not the same world. I was going to say, I wished you would have gone about 2 months earlier, because right up until about a month before that happened, before the Romantics, we were going. So Andrew and myself and Marty was going to run. I guess it's the silver, whatever. So it's the.
Oh yeah,
he was
that.
60.
Yeah,
for his 64th birthday, I think is what he was looking for, or 60s, something like that. That was so we had everything booked. And same thing, we had used, I can't remember her name, but we had used KTM rental deal there that was going to rent the bike for him to race, provide the mechanics, do all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And as we got closer, Lori, I could just see she just was getting so nervous. Never been to a country like that before. Yeah. Heard some ugly things about some of the extreme enduros in some of the other countries, that they had some problems, and so as it got closer and closer, she just got to the point, she's like, man, I really don't think you. And then we cancel everything, and at the last one, we had everything, flights, everything, we were ready to go, and he goes. Next thing you know, I see pictures on Facebook of him going through the country I'm going,
right.
Like, oh wow,
right.
Like he said, he's riding through a meadow somewhere up in the mountains somewhere, running through there.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh my gosh,
what a cool experience.
What a cute, and I think it's the closest thing we have here to doing something like that is probably Baja, Mexico. That's probably the last thing that we have anywhere close to us that are still, like you said, in the Baja. You could pull it, like you said, you could pull into somebody and ask them, hey, do you have a glass of water, or can I get a sandwich? They would do it for you,
right?
And or if you stop to talk to them, they would insist that you want to give you some food. So that's the closest thing we have to those kind of countries that are really close. Like, when do you see a road rally here? Where I grew up in Pennsylvania, there's a road rally, one of the world road rallies too, something. But if you get like 300-400 people watching, is great, but watch in Europe when they do a road rally, there's probably there's 1,000 people standing on the road as they're racing, where we don't have it here, so
remember that time, speaking of what do they call that when you bring somebody in your home, can't think of the name of it now.
Exchange students,
no, like your hospitality.
Yeah.
So remember in what was it, Italy, watching your dad. 6 days. Them ladies made. We're staying along this city street, and the riders are coming up. This is at the ISDE, and they're coming up through like these apartment. I guess you call them like apartments or houses or whatever, and a little alley. And all of a sudden, these ladies up in the house there, they bring us out lunch and a bottle of wine or something.
Wow.
I'm 2 years older than him. I was probably 14, 12, 13, 14.
Yeah, that's normal.
I don't know, something like that. And, they fed us. It was just, we didn't know them, Now, like you said, but here in America, like, hey, get off my yard,
Yeah, right.
But, we're a little territorial over here for some reason. But I guess, when you get sued, that kind of, a lot of lawsuits and stuff like that. But
so what country did you like the best?
I was just going to ask you that.
Probably the coolest country was probably Slovakia.
Really?
Yeah.
And what made it stand out?
So I'm kind of like a secret. I'm not like researching a lot or anything, but I'm kind of like really into like old war stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I don't like research it or collect it, but like if I get like a World War II movie on or something, I seem like I'm always like stuck to it and watching it. And if, out of all history, that's kind of something that I always pay attention to. And so over there, they had a lot of that. Just like there was a building that was completely demolished. It looked like it's been like and on fire for years and years. And the local told me that was from like the war. Still, they never touched it since the war. And we were running down these old, I call them skidder trails, you know, and they, so I asked one of the guys, you know, a local or you know, who, I don't remember who it was, but those were, he said that they were still tank tracks that still have never filled in. And
really?
Wow.
So just, I don't know, hearing stuff like that, it was kind of like, man, this is a cool country. I mean, it was poor, it was, you know, more low end, but it was that, and as I was getting older, the nightlife was cooler too. So, you know, but yeah, so it was, it was good. That was probably the one that was, you know, probably the one that definitely sunk in the most. But
well, my first 6 days was with you you went to Oklahoma.
I did. Yep.
Yeah. You
watched my dad.
Watched your dad. Yep. That was the last one that was in the United States of America was 94, right?
94 Tulsa.
94. Yep. But we got to go to Finland, and that was an awesome trip.
Yeah, that was good. Finland was awesome. That was, as a non-riding one, that was probably awesome. Is definitely the best.
Yeah, we
did a lot of cool stuff there.
Oh man, we just had a blast. And we were, you know, hanging out, you know, with Rodney Smith, Guy Cooper. Because he rode that time. Summers, and I mean, we're touching their bike. I mean,
didn't we? You or I? Didn't we go on on them with the GP course on the rental car?
Yes, and we rode go karts with them and stuff. I mean, it was just like,
it was cool.
The go kart track was in the middle of this little, kind of out in the country a little bit, and then they had a road course, and
huge, like world GP course.
Yeah,
like it was
a big deal.
Awesome.
So these guys, you know, Suzuki guys. So what was it? Hawkins, Hatch, Smith.
Yeah,
and I think
maybe like Ty Davis was around there somewhere.
Yeah, but these guys are racing rental cars.
Yeah,
on a road course.
They rented the road course for like an hour or something, and they were racing their rental cars.
Wow!
And then you got that, and then literally right over here was a 1982 Olympic ski jump.
Yes,
like. They had the Olympics at this site in the ski jump, and that was another weird thing. Nobody guarded it. There was no fence or nothing. We climbed all the way to the top, and nobody, like I said, here, you'd be run off that.
Wow. I got introduced to nettles on that jump. I'll never forget that because we got back in the car. You probably don't remember, but I just remember we got back in the car and I'm like itching and hurting. My dad said I got probably into the net. They call them nettles, I guess. But, and then we did, I don't know what happened specifically, but I heard there was a couple young men that rented bicycles from the hotel we stayed at.
Yeah.
And a couple of gentlemen that rode those were doing tricks for the homeless folks in town. You remember that?
I do.
We returned the bicycles, and the guy comes out, the hotel clerk or whatever, and he takes the chain guide off of Cody's bike, and it's just hanging on by a shoestring, and he just kind of it just falls off. It was a kickstand or a chain guide or something. He just tosses it. He's like, what happened to these bicycles? Rims are bent to snot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The rims were all bent. The chain guide was hanging off. The kickstand they were gone.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think you endoed on it.
Yeah, then that woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there, around the hotel, around the backside, there was a little flight of stairs. I remember picking the bicycle up, going up the top, and then all the way down. We just hammered the snot out of them things. That was a really fun trip.
Yeah.
If there's anybody below the age of 20, please don't do that.
Don't rent. Don't rent bikes to Cody and man. That was not a good thing.
That was a good time.
That was a good time. Well, we've had a lot of good times, and I guess the lesson. I see these other families on Facebook, local families particularly, I'm just trying to think of. There's not a whole lot of off-road kids around the area. I know the Husted kid. Mm-hmm. He's doing some GNCCs. Landon.
Yep.
But did you ever? I guess one regret I have, and maybe this is some advice to listeners, is just appreciate the moment.
Yeah.
like all the hundreds of thousands of miles that we've traveled together and flew across the world, and you know, like you didn't. Did you ever think that was going to end?
Right.
I didn't.
No.
Thought that was going to be the way it was forever. You know, and what great times.
Yes.
You know,
I've never had to, never had the opportunity to do that. But as far as my family and the business that we were in for many years, we had the opportunity to ride all over the United States, you know, and it wasn't competition wise, but it was just being able to ride in the mountains, you know, in Montana and Colorado and Arizona and California, and you know, Idaho. You know, I'm not sure where you said you talked about going to Idaho. I don't. You to go up and see the guys at Recluse and go over towards those over
close
that way?
to them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
You need to give them a holler because they're always looking to ride. So give them a holler. But we rode more Idaho Falls in north, so towards the park, and you know, we were able to ride that Utah. You know, so as a family, we really enjoyed. You know, it was just we always threw a bike in, and as we went to different places to work, we were able to spend a day or two out there. I mean, I just, like I said, I'm trying to get my grandson, you know, he's been on the track. He's not really racing the track or anything, but he's been on the track because that's where he knows he can ride and that kind of stuff. And I'm, you know, we're going to hopefully have him up here and he'll be able to ride the, you know, the race,
the hare scramble?
The hare scramble, you know, so that should be really cool. And like I said, the unfortunate part about our park here is a little sandy, you know, so for somebody starting, it's a little tough to be in the woods in a bunch of sand. So the nice thing about having the single track is that, you know, we get to the single track, it's in the woods and he can go slow and not have to worry too much about the deep sand. But I know as soon as he gets out there, you know, for me, it's always been off-road, you know, it's always been the off-road stuff because that's what I've enjoyed. You know, we've always had destinations to go to, you know.
Right.
A lot of our rides started, had lunch somewhere and came home, you know, rode 110 miles from Pocatello, Idaho to Alpine, Wyoming, had lunch and turn around, come back to the trails, you know. So, you know, it's just really neat to be able to do that kind of riding or some intense riding. You know, I don't ride the rough stuff as much anymore because, you know, I'm getting old. You know, and they're making these trails harder and harder all the time, you know, but it's a lot of fun.
Well, for me, I'm just so thankful that, you know, our family's got the hook up together and and really and truly your dad for kind of getting us all. We kind of were, because we were going motoing. Yeah. And really kind of got out of that.
Yeah.
And
my dad had a huge role in that because he was for me for sure. He definitely, you know, because I know he rode pro motocross back in the day, and then I think Kevin Piasecki and some of them Piasecki boys got my dad into off road, and then he kind of started riding that, and then that's kind of where, you know, we rode moto in the beginning as we were younger because I think it was just easier, you know, like Delta's right there, Milan's up here, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I just, you know, remember going to that Marion Arena Cross every, you know, weekend in the winter.
With you once.
Yeah, and it was just like some of this. I mean, you look back and we followed like the Arena Cross series for like a couple years, and you know, it was like, geez, think about this stuff, and it was like, man, where's the, you know, and then, you know, thank my dad. I mean, for like being fortunate to be able to do all that. You know, it's like, you know, that is something I always think about as I'm getting older and I have to pay my own bills now. It's like,
I do too.
Holy smokes! How did he do that?
I don't
like,
either.
You know, it's it's you know, but it
humbles you.
Oh yeah,
it really does.
I mean, it sure does. It's you know, like but
buy a couple of dirt bikes now, you could buy a new car.
Yes,
you know.
That's no joke.
That's amazing, you know.
Yeah.
Well, you know, don't forget us with your Sherco. Come on over to MX Express. You know, I know you don't want to jump stuff, but we can let you go over the sides of the jumps and around the trees.
Yeah, just plant a couple trees.
Has there been a Sherco on the track?
What's that?
Has there been a Sherco on the track? No. So you'd be the first one.
Yeah, you come over. Actually, we can let you go over the sides of the jumps versus over the jumps part of it. And you'll think you're off road. Right?
Yeah, right.
Run you down through.
Well, you got that little stretch.
Remember
in the woods?
Yep.
Well, just put that. You had the Enduro Cross there. Just set that back up.
Yeah, you know, I'd love to, but you know, I just could not get
draw.
I just could not get the draw. You know, to me it was fun.
Yeah.
You know, because it was more technical and slow than it really was going fast. Well, some of us go fast, right? You know, but also some of us fell in the wood pit too.
Yeah.
I thought
there's that too.
With the rocks. Didn't you fall on the rocks?
I know. He went down in the woods, in the wood chunks, didn't you?
Or the Matrix?
Because he takes off and he's out there just scooting. I was trying to think who was behind you, and so they're like, you know, he's gone, you know. Yeah. And all of a sudden, he goes out there and he gets about 3/4 of the way through that, you know, that wood, you know, our wood pile, split wood pile, and he goes down and like, Cody went down, and somebody went past him. I can't remember who went past him.
I don't remember.
And they're yelling, screaming, howling. Of course, once he got back up and made about 1/4 of the track, he was past him again. But
right.
It was so funny because they're like, oh, I passed Cody, you know. Right. And it was cool. But no, that's a lot of fun. I mean, you got a lot of guys on their motocross bikes that want to go out there and smack the pipes up and do all that kind of stuff.
It's just the don't have a lot of people wanting to do that around here. You know?
No, there was a series down south that was doing it. They were doing it for it, and that's his problem is he had a hard time drawing people because people just didn't. But you go west, and
it's huge.
They're happening every weekend.
Yeah.
Well, that's so this hard enduro, arena, enduro cross and all that. It's gotten so big. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. Where I always thought years ago that was like there's no way because your local guy is not gonna go out and trash his bike and then for one, not even be able to finish a race, let alone, but I don't know what year it was, but in Red Bull started that last man standing and they picked 100 of like they called it the top off-road riders in the US. And I was actually invited to it. And I remember coming home one night from work or school or whatever. I don't remember. I don't even remember the year anymore. But I had a Red Bull box sitting, in the mail. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Red Bull sent me something to drink. I mean, it's cool. Yeah. I'm like, I kind of like Red Bull. And so I opened it up and they had this, it was a cool little thing and it said, hey, you're invited to this. Well, then, so that was kind of when that stuff kind of got started, and that would have been probably 2005 or 6, something like that. And then I remember we did that, and then went from there to Vegas. I think that was their first enduro cross then.
Yes,
and
me and Nate flew out with my parents, watched you.
Yeah, and that was.
And I'll just say, what happens in Vegas.
Stays in Vegas.
Well, we already know the bicycle deal here. So we don't even want to go any more than that.
Well, yeah.
So, because we were in Vegas, and I don't know what year that was with Marty. Because Marty was following the circuits. He was doing the enduro cross. He was actually tagging along because his brother Mick drove for Stillwell, and they were racing. What were they racing? I would say they were racing. I think what bikes they were doing. Were they running gas or
KTMs, wasn't it?
No, well, they might have. I was thinking they were running a different bike. I was trying to think what they were running. They might have been running KTM, but I was thinking
the first ever
Beta. Were they running? So when Mick was driving their van, I think they were doing Beta.
I think that was after this though, because Beta. I don't think they came
Beta
apart.
Wasn't around.
Yeah, they
didn't have an enduro bike.
No, it was. Yeah. This would have been like 2005 or 6. Yeah, it's 05 or 06, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would have been like, so now with.
It was before I met my wife. I know that.
Yep.
Going with Marty, I'm not sure if he was actually going with, because he was just, we're in Phoenix, so we went up there, so I don't remember if they were doing the Beta thing with Stillwell or not, but, after that, he was, he'd always tag along and go up there and race. He was racing KTM at the time.
Okay.
But somewhere along I got pictures of him inside the stadium there.
It was cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like amazing watching these guys go. And it's funny, because, Marty's always been an off-road guy. And he's always, if there's an obstacle there, he goes over it. Under it, side of it. I mean, just whatever, And so then you get out there and then you start looking at these man-made obstacles that they go over, and they're looking at the, the tree or the, the log teepee stuff. And it's, what is it, 10, 12 feet tall, and they're going over that thing. I'm thinking, oh my word,
Right.
And same thing with the rocks. They're out there, they're running. These are not rocks. rocks, they're boulders, and they're zipping through there, and it's just like, and you watch some of these young kids that are doing it, man. It's just, man, they zip through these things and make a step here and there, and they're through it. And you're like, wow, I'd be still stuck at the beginning,
Well, I remember you going out there and watching. I remember you saying your heart rate was just about out of your chest.
It was like the craziest arm pump you've ever had in your life. And the memory I have of that was knocking Rich Lafferty off the rock pile.
Well, he probably deserved it.
Yeah, right.
Did you run into him?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it was me, Rich, and Steve Levine were in that heat, and I don't know whatever happened, but Rich was on the edge, and
There's no video evidence.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. And so I come up the middle or something, and I got a little squirrely, and I fell into Rich, and he went off the side of the hill, and it was a big rock,
Yeah.
And but yeah, it was first time ever doing something like that. It was like
it was intense.
It was crazy, and like I said, you've never had arm pump like that before. I mean, it was great. No breathing. You can't breathe it. Out there. I mean, it's.
Well, I got all my supplies from him to do the enduro class. He had the tree. You had rocks, you had the tires, you had a bunch of telephone poles. So
there was everything there.
His dad was bringing stuff over to me as we were thinking, okay, we're going to do this,
Oh,
right.
From his track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
because I built a enduro cross track in our yard because my sister gotten invited to be do the enduro cross at
the X Games.
At the
I
X
remember
Games.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm like, well, man, you've never done enduro cross, or she's short, so she's kind of already challenged at that end. So I'm like, I'll build this track for you, and you can go practice. I don't think she ever practiced on it once, but so I had this track all done, and then when you called, I was like, perfect. I can get rid of all this
Adios.
stuff,
Yeah. But it was I enjoyed it. Like I said, I definitely wasn't competitive in anything much, but it was fun because most other than the old split lot wood, rocks and stuff. That's what we normally ride. You're riding over big tires and stuff. Now we cheated and we didn't have it where you actually had to jump. You had to go up to, only about a quarter of the tires buried. We had about 3/4 of the tire buried, so you had to go over. But it was fun, and I think a lot of people had a lot of fun, and we tamed it down. I mean, other than
you did, yeah, you did.
Other than the rock or the wood, the rocks weren't that bad. I mean, it didn't take long to get a line or two through it, and you could roll through it just about as fast as you go down the straightaway. You know, because once the stuff got, because we didn't have giant rock, But I don't know if you were there.
Yeah.
Seeing that wood flying with those 4 wheels.
Oh my gosh. That was awesome.
We had chunks flying in the air.
Yeah, weren't you guys? You were doing the.
Yeah, I did the commentator. Yeah.
So.
Well, I remember from the enduro cross in Vegas, the one memory I have, from what I can remember, not sure why, Wally Palmer.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That you could have had that guy just run heats by himself, and nothing against Wally. I like.
Oh yeah, he's
super.
He's
good,
huge,
dude.
man. I
mean,
mean,
he's fast. He is fast as can be.
Yeah.
And just look him up on YouTube. And I just remember him just coming around the corner and just laid the wood. I mean, wide open, and just bounce. I mean, just tossed. Bikes going everywhere.
Wild Wally Palmer.
And somebody said that Ryan Hughes was, because Rhino was there, and somebody said he saw him and said that's the worst throttle control I've ever seen in my life, or something like that. But the dude had guts. I mean, absolute guts.
Yeah,
I mean, he was something.
For me going into that was so the first half of it wasn't bad because everybody's like, oh man, I got to just get on it, keep the front end up, and go through it. But then after I get about halfway through, it's like my brain's going, you do realize this wood is very unstable.
Yeah, right.
And then you start thinking, oh man, and then you're not on it as much,
right?
And then you start getting really wild. Then usually it's about the last end you go down,
Absolutely.
But now, like I say, it's a lot of different ridings.
Yeah.
Well, it's fun, and that's what it's all about.
Yep.
Marty, do you have anything more for Cody before we let him loose?
No, we just got to get together and go riding one of these days.
Good with that.
Well, buddy, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me.
Well, we do. He probably ought to give some people out there some info on MSS.
Yeah. So how does somebody find your business?
Since you didn't bring a sign for me today.
Yeah, well, so you can find us online at mssohio.com, or we're on Facebook at MSS Mastin Site Services, and Instagram. So you can find us there if you need any services.
Twitter? You on Twitter?
No.
I don't do Twitter.
No Twitter. No. But
no birds for me.
No.
So
But-
your
Phone number?
septics, some grading,
Yep.
excavation, still all that kind of good stuff.
Yep. Phone number on there is 419-408-3867. So
Ask for you or the wife?
either one.
The
Either
boss.
one?
The boss
When
is
they
the
just say
wife.
the boss,
I'd rather
they know
talk to
exactly-
Aaron.
Yeah.
They know exactly who to go to.
She's a lot better looking than me. So.
No question.
So, yeah,
No
so-
question. Let's well, again, we appreciate you coming out, and as we wrap up, Marty and I want to thank you for tuning in to season 2, episode 9, and once again want to thank our guest Cody Mastin for joining us. If you have questions, comments, ideas, or guests you want to hear from, we want to hear from you. So send us an email at ToledoTrackandTrail@gmail.com. Until next time, we hope you and your family can get outside and enjoy the sport of motocross and off-road racing and riding. Stay on the track and trail wherever you are, and be good stewards of the sport that you love so much. On behalf of my co-host Marty Wheeler, I'm Matt Bucher. We again thank you for tuning into the Toledo Track and Trail podcast. Stay safe, everyone. This episode is brought to you by Ryder Power Sports, located in Waterville, Ohio.
Ryder Power Sports provides a host of services for your motocross and off-road machine. Ryder Power Sports is the home to the ever-famous turbo speed tuning, and now Fathom Ride Company.
Give Ryder Power Sports a call at 419-601-0421 and keep an eye out for their spring grand opening.